There are 1,000 stories in the Envisioners' future. This is just one of them.
Hey, here we are again. It's Wednesday evening and it's Dave Coplin here, dialing into the future of work. And what a week we've had and what a show we've got for you. Now, look, I have to tell you, we just got hit by certainly the largest thunderstorm we've had around in these parts for a long time. All the lights went out, all the computers went off, and I've only just managed to reboot. So fingers crossed that was it. But if we disappear, you'll know what's happened. So what we're doing this week, we're talking all about the future. And I guess this has been a really interesting week. So a number of things have happened, right? So we've got this whole thing about the biggest recession on record. We've got this weird stuff going on with exam results and that whole sort of thing. And then we've got unemployment and digital skills. And I felt now is a great time for us to really be thinking about the longer term future, because right now we're stuck in the middle of this sort of terrible crisis and all of this odd stuff happening around us and everything's changed. And I just think it's helpful for us to have an eye on the destination, because I think that might help us going ahead. So if you're waiting for your A-level exam results or GCSEs in a week's time, then our thoughts are with you. If you are at a university and you are receiving those grades and you're thinking about what students are going to take, remember that this is all part of the bigger game, and we haven't told these poor students that this whole grade thing is technically a lie. It's not the most important event in their lives at this moment in time. It's just a gateway into the things that they're going to do, so help them on that journey if you can. Before we dive into that conversation, as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Treble 3. Blooming fantastic, always been great to us, doing some amazing stuff. I don't think I've ever mentioned, but they do a whole line in embroidery design, which sounds bizarre, but it's bloody good. So pretty much if it doesn't move, then they will probably be able to embroider it for you with any logo that you like. You know they've done the show, and actually I dug out some of these. This is the merch that they did when we did the Cheltenham Science Festival last year. I got all Rockstar, or in my head I got all Rockstar. Of course I wasn't, I was just another big nerd, but and so we had a whole load of stuff prepared for the audience there, which we thought would be good. So just again, you know, from mugs to t-shirts to stickers to coasters, bizarrely, we can do it all, and in banner stands, you know that. So anyway, treble3.co.uk, you know that they're awesome and they've been a fantastic supporter of all that we're doing. Be great if you give them a shout for any of your digital needs. Then in terms of things that are coming up, a really fantastic initiative that's happening in Coventry, of all places. Coventry is part of the rich heritage of the Coplin family. And what was lovely for me is to be contacted by some people doing some amazing work there about apprenticeships, and in particular helping build digital confidence in schools. So the local government there, the local authorities are working together with schools and some other organisations to provide digital apprentices, basically people who are semi-funded, who will be part of your school, help you do all of the stuff with technology, get it to its rightful place. I thought it was a fantastic opportunity. It's a fantastic initiative, and hopefully the things that they do in Coventry, they can then scale out and actually be an exemplar for other parts of the country. So worth looking at. I'll put the link into the stuff that's going on there. So great to be involved in that. And then second, fantastic. I am so blessed to have some wonderful clients to work with who are willing to go on a journey. And I don't mean that as some euphemism. What I mean is that they are willing to see, in a world of crappy webinars, is there a better way that we can engage audiences in a virtual way? And the latest people just who are such a joy to work with, the Ingram Micro Cloud. And so I'm just going to play you a brief video. This is some work that we've done for them, just a promotion for an event. It's on September the 2nd. We'd love you can join us. I'm just going to roll VT, as they say. Hi. Dave Coplin here, bringing you news of a fabulous virtual event coming to you on September the 2nd and brought to you by your friends at Ingram Micro Cloud. Now look, I know what I'm supposed to say in video invites like this. I'm supposed to talk about in these unprecedented times. I'm supposed to say things like the new normal, whatever that is, or even the post-pandemic new normal. That sounds like some kind of disaster movie. But look, this event is different. This isn't like the rest of the events that are in your inbox. This is an event that really looks to build a community rather than to make a sales pitch. It's about looking at the opportunity, and despite the terrible context of the pandemic, The opportunity that lies in front of us, because we now have a society that has, for the first time probably, a far richer relationship with technology than ever before. Our friends, our family, employees, our customers, consumers, they're all looking for more. And this is a gift to you as an industry. This is a gift to you and your organizations, because your customers are looking for more from you. They need agility, they need insight, they need innovation. And that's what we want to discuss. We're going to be joined by a whole range of people to help us along that discussion. We're going to have Nick Smith. He's the CEO of Cloudmaker. He's going to be talking about what it's like to be an ISV, what it's like to work with Ingram Micro Cloud and tech partners like Microsoft. And speaking of Microsoft, we're going to have Jason Cabot. He's a cloud solutions architect for Microsoft. He's going to be talking about the Microsoft platform. He's going to be looking at things like remote collaboration tools and, of course, security. And, of course, we're going to have Alex Schumach here from Ingram. And Alex is going to be really talking to us about the opportunity from Ingram's perspective, not to sell you stuff, but to build a community, to help you be connected to each other, to be agile, to be innovative, to help your customers achieve more than they could do before. It's going to be a fabulous conversation. It doesn't work without you. We need you there to be part of that conversation. We'd love to see you there on September the 2nd. You can sign up on the link here. It'd be great if you could join us. I feel like that was a Blue Peter moment. Here's one I made earlier. Anyway, 3 things you need to know about that. September the 2nd. You don't need to be an ISV to join, but it kind of helps. And we're going to be talking a lot about the opportunity presented by a world where our customers, consumers, our employees are thinking very differently about the way that they engage with brands and the things that they do, which would be great. The third thing is I'm so glad that when I shot that, it was not like it is now, which is a bazillion degrees in here. So thank God for small mercies, eh? So let's get to the main topic, which is the road to 2030. And again, just to remember to set the frame, global recession, we've got unprecedented unemployment, and we've got this challenge around skills. And you're seeing this play out right now in the news, and you're seeing it play out in the context of exam results. We're going to see it in the conversations about degrees at university. We're going to see it in the employment statistics. Brilliant statistic I saw yesterday on the news. It was a lady from BT, a professor who deals in digital skills and digital readiness. She said 82% of the current vacancies in the UK require digital skills. 82%. So we're in the middle of all of this. We've got to figure out what we do. But actually, we were already doing the wrong thing before the pandemic started. We were still preparing our kids, and we were still thinking about work for a Victorian world, a Victorian production line, which we all know doesn't exist. So rather than do that, why don't we take this opportunity to get out in front of ourselves and look out to 2030? And it's with that in mind that I'd like to introduce today's guest, which is Richard Foster-Fletcher. How you doing, Richard?
Dave, really, really well. Waiting for that lightning bomb to come, but so good.
Yeah, me too. It could happen any moment now. So, but look, the reason I wanted to get Richard on the show is Richard has been curating a conversation in a number of areas. I mean, it kind of, a bit like me, it centers around AI and the opportunity and challenges that AI brings society. But it's really much more about how do we curate this road to 2030? If we want to really think about what our business is, what is the world of work going to look like in 2030? And if we can build that view, then we can start to extrapolate back to today, to the kind of skills that we need, the kind of industries that will be important, the kind of businesses that will flourish and thrive. And so with that, Richard, I guess probably the best place to start, can you sort of unpack a bit about what you've been doing and this sort of whole thing about how you see the future and how you see it playing out?
Dave, absolutely. The future is most definitely not yet written. Whether you want to be an optimist or a pessimist, whether you're scared of robots, whether you're scared of AI, it is not written. But we have to go and write it. It's not going to happen by itself. We can't leave it to any particular entity. We can't leave it to corporates, to governments, to society, to local institutions. It is a story that we all have to write together. And this is going to be an incredible decade. You might think that we said that about every decade, but I really believe this decade is special. And I'm happy to explain some of the reasons why.
Yeah, I know, and I love that you say that, because it's always, this is a really special time. No, this more than any, but it really is, isn't it? And I just think the pandemic, God, I have to say this all the time, but given the most terrible of contexts and consequences, has actually given us this opportunity from which we could extract ourselves in a way that sees us, finally be ready for the 21st century, as opposed to just continuing to sort of replicate those old ways of working. And I was thinking about this in the context of that Ingram Micro thing, actually. One of the things that we used to do, and I'm sure it'd be interested, Richard, if you've been doing this with your clients, is pre-pandemic, it was all about, God, how do we break through the inertia of people wanting to do the things the same way or not understanding the potential of technology? Whereas now they've done all that. They've cut through the red tape. They've thrown away the bureaucracy, because it was essentially, if they didn't do that, organizations weren't going to exist. So now they've got this appetite for wanting to do more. And I think, to your point about writing the future, this is our opportunity to help them do that. Is that something that you're seeing with people? Do you think people are asking, are they looking now for more from technology?
Dave, this is such an interesting area, and I'm really glad you brought it up. I perhaps didn't give enough about my background. After 15 years corporate and 5 years at Oracle, I've been podcasting, producing media, research, working with clients to help connect the dots on artificial intelligence. So COVID-19, now, none of us quite expected this would be an interesting decade. We said it before COVID-19. It's been an accelerator in many senses of technologies. Things like autonomous working, remote working has been well documented. But above and beyond that, I mean, this for me felt like when Warren Buffett talks about when the tide goes out, we find out who's been swimming naked. That's what this has felt like for me. Organizations said they had culture. Well, do you? How's your culture standing up then when everybody's working from home? They thought they were innovative. Okay, so how are you innovating now? How are you completely changing when your algorithms don't work anymore because people are buying differently, or you have to furlough half of your staff? How are you innovating now? And so we see the ramifications of this so clearly, and the companies that did have great culture and leadership that understood the changes that were going through, and they were able to innovate in ways that were open and collaborative and even allowed external innovation in, pretty much did well. And incidentally, it's a correlation, I suppose. It's definitely not a causation, but those are the same companies that tend to do AI projects really well too, because there's an element of diversity and culture built into an AI project. We've all heard the problems around bias and around data and the limitations of data sets. But if you have a company that's able to speak up, question, interrogate, speak without fear of reprimand or sort of personal brand damage, a company that understands why you need to have diversity and inclusiveness from the ground up, not because they read a report, because they really get that helps to make a successful project. But those companies were able to open up their walls, and they're able to let external collaborators in, whether you're talking about the boutiques, the enterprises, or these wonderful new distributed platforms of connected knowledge workers that we're seeing more and more of. And they're able to expand out and have also exponential opportunity to grow, versus the ones that were keeping their walls up. Well, you want to be careful with that. You can suffocate. You keep those walls too tight.
Yeah, no, totally. And look, I think it's a double whammy as well, because one of the things I've been reading a lot about recently, there seems to be a lot of articles or a lot of commentary of people saying, I'm going to remember all of the brands, all of the organizations that sort of treated their people well during the pandemic, the ones that looked after their people, the ones that thought differently about their customers. And when this is all over, they're going to be the ones that I want to work for. They're going to be the ones I want to buy stuff. The rest of you, and we kind of know who those names are, you can forget about it. And so it's this, number one, the organizational culture that you talk about, Richard, and making that happen. But secondly, it's understanding that there is this quiet revolution in all of us going on about where's the humility. I mean, we talked about this really early on with Richard Tyler. We talked about sort of corporate compassion, which sounds terrible, but it is this sense of, where's your sort of humility in these times, because people are going to remember that. I think that's really special. I think that's, again, given the terrible context, it's a great opportunity for organizations to really understand. And I think it changes the relationship between employee, employer, if that whole thing around trust is there. So let's talk
trust.
Let's talk about trust then.
Transparency, so important.
Yeah. Well, and
autonomy.
Go on autonomy.
I mean, companies like Automatic, who own WordPress and Tumblr, they've been proclaiming for years that the very best companies will be those that were born out of remote workers from the beginning, access to the widest pool of talent. And they've been saying that for years. And now we might be seeing that they're right. But my word, have you got to be able to trust your employees, And the fact is that I'll just say this and come back to you. If you can't trust your employees, change your mind or change your people.
No, exactly. I mean, I've never sort of understood that. And we talked about this so many times in terms of flexible working is if you can't trust your employees when you can't see them, why did you bloody hire them? It just doesn't make sense, right? Well, look, I want to go further out to 2030 and let's bring our old friend AI into this equation and talk to me, Richard, when you're talking to clients, when you're talking to businesses about the opportunity that AI will bring to them, how do you talk about that? What are the areas that you focus on?
I think there's still a lot of confusion around AI in the wider society and also in businesses. There's a lot of data scientists who I think thought they would be working on some really interesting projects that have kind of been reined back in because we never really solved the data problem in the first place. With all the iterations, we've been through the kind of data lakes and into the kind of Hadoops and the big data, and been propagated by companies like Google saying we don't have the best machine learning algorithms, we have the most data. And I think this has been it's been true to a sense. Facebook, this great empire based on the data they could get to. But when you drill down into the myth busting on this, it gets really interesting, a little darker and definitely interesting. And I'll give you a few examples. Well, first of all, if it's just about how cleanest labeled data, then it's game over for those who didn't do it. And that's paid its price. And so I'll pause on that thought for a second in terms of game over. About a year ago, I was looking at the developments from Amazon and a big department store that we have over here. Amazon was working on how they boot of your Audi with a tie-up. They were working on a technology that would allow the person into your house to drop this off. I don't want to get into the ethics here. I'm talking about the technology. And they're working on the truck. This truck that would roll into town full of special priced item was they were using machine learning to work out what was going to be right for that area. They had food, they had dancing. So they're working on these kind of things. At the same time, Debenhams' announcement of the latest tech work was push notifications. At the time, there was this suggestion of an online retail tax, and they said it should be 2%. And I was saying to them, make it 10%. It won't matter because you don't collect data and use it in your business. And now, unfortunately, we see the demise of Debenhams, a sad loss. But that's how it was. But Dave, what might be changing is that we might be moving away from that. Now, if you look at Cambridge Analytica, there's a friend of mine who was offered a top job at Cambridge Analytica, and they turned it down because they said there's no machine learning, there's no AI in Cambridge Analytica. And it's like, what? How can that be the case? I thought we'd all established that the most evil use case of AI, apart from autonomous weapons, was that Cambridge Analytica had got all these, it influenced Brexit and Trump and all these things. And I stay out of politics, but, bad news. But they didn't have that much AI. They were using reasoning and machine logic that was not that different to what you and I would use to write a horoscope.
No, totally.
We overestimate this massively, first of all. The second thing is that we might be moving away from this need to collect so much data. If it's all about data, then companies like Volkswagen are done. Tesla's got so many more miles than that, they will never catch up. And hence probably Tesla's market cap so massive. But it might not be just about data in the future because we're on that evolution. And we've got past this big data now into an understanding that we need to be able to drive in, and we need to be able to put logic and reason into our machines. And you don't need so much data for that. So you can still leapfrog your Amazons, your Googles, your Teslas without needing to collect so much data by new types of machine learning that will come through. And this will really stir up the market if you don't need so many millions of data points in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that. I mean, it's a completely different example, but it's something we've been saying, in the whole sort of deep fake arena. So the early deep fakes were all, I needed lots and lots of images of my target if I was going to be able to replicate a credible sort of facsimile of them. And then it was about 6 months ago, some researchers were able to do it with something like 6 images, and they were using celebrities. And so there is lots of innovation out there. I think the challenge, again, back to this whole thing about 2030 and trying to bring it back to skills is, for me, data is as much about the question that you're trying to answer as it is the data itself, right? So one of the things I think that businesses need to have, and one of the things that, in terms of skills, right? So as you're looking kind of skills that we take into organizations, it's being able to think of what are the questions that we're trying to answer and being able to really crystallize those in a way that they're crisp and clear, because then the answer to, so what data do we need to use in order to get that answer becomes crystal clear. And I don't think we spend enough time. I don't know, maybe increasingly we're starting to do that. I mean, the computer science curriculum at school, unfortunately for me, it's not that it's a joke, but it takes you down a very different pathway when it comes to a relationship with data and technology. There's an opportunity in statistics and maths, but we're missing a whole portion of education, and I think at a broad level, an understanding about how AI works, about the role of data within that, and also understanding things about bias and explainability, which become crucial issues to the broader public at large. These are all things that I think are part of a very, standardized approach to helping people embrace and understand, technology. And I think that's crucial. And it actually sort of leads me, I know you've got a really interesting thing going on in Milton Keynes. It would be great to talk about that just briefly, about building that AI community out there, because I think that's part of that purview there, is it?
It is, yeah, but we took the view that we wanted to be as broad as possible, both when we were in Milton Keynes physically and see we're online and will be for a little bit longer, in that we've been very inclusive. So we've been doing problem-solving sessions around machine learning. We've actually been doing some coding lessons as well. And we've organized some roundtables at the same event. So kind of multi-room, multi-breakout events. But the core of what we are is a main stage where we bring together academia and business and government and third sector together. And we want everybody to have a kind of 4 out of 10 for an AI understanding, because otherwise we go down the rabbit hole of like Skynet and Terminator, which we don't want to, no offense, we don't want to waste our time talking about. But we want to accelerate the conversation. So we've spent a lot of our time talking about responsible AI, explainable AI, ethical AI. We've been going through an AI for Good series at the moment. Had incredible speakers, Richard Benjamin's chief data scientist at Telefonica. We've had Christopher Lütke from the Technical University of Munich. I could list these all day for just incredible people that we're so blessed to have. And they're not talking about how they're coding, they're talking about what they're experiencing and living through in this decade as they try to deliver AI that is profitable and valuable for their business, but AI that's responsible and AI that has ramifications that at least are visible or understandable. And so to see people moving to that target, if you like, has been really incredible. And it's this idea that, look, maybe we don't need to have explainable AI. I mean, look, Dave, you and I probably don't read the terms and condition pages anyway at the moment. But I think you should know what Amazon's trying to learn with Alexa. And I think Apple should tell us what they're going to try and learn with these AR glasses, how they're connected. Because that's something that we all need to contribute to. I mean, I don't want to sound harsh about these companies. Love the products. I'm a big user of Amazon's products. I've got 7 Alexas. I am in no way angry at Amazon, but I also take a pragmatic approach. And when we found out that they were linking up all the Ring doorbell devices and creating surveillance maps with them and selling that data on to the police and companies that just wanted to buy it, we didn't know about that. And then, you get into a situation from Amazon saying, hey, do you want one of these rings? It's half price. Maybe it's free. Why is it free, Dave? Because my house is in, in that little sweet spot where they're missing some data. Yeah. That's a bit dark. We need to step back from that. And so we get into that, and we're very inclusive. And that's the kind of conversations we love to have.
Yeah, I love that. And I think my own experience in those sort of big tech companies is more often than not, there's somebody incredibly well-meaning behind some of those conversations. Usually it's an engineer who's just a little bit too in love with the functionality of the stuff they've created that they think everybody will love, rather than thinking about some of the privacy limitations. And sometimes there are, more malicious intent. But I guess what I'd be really interested is, what's your audience in Milton Keynes? Who are the sort of people that are coming out? Are you getting the usual suspects? So I'm going to say it out loud, the nerds, people like me who are already interested. Are you getting, just business people who are kind of intrigued, a bit curious to see what's going on?
We've got big opportunities. I mean, bear in mind that we're online now. I just want to sort of remind the viewers and yourself of that I keep joking. Does anybody know what MK stands for when we're doing these events? Like, a lot of people say no. Like, why are you called that? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Don't worry. We'll come back to it some other time. We definitely started out bringing that core of data scientists and technical people together. Love that crowd. Important crowd. Yeah, we could talk about the fact that only 18% of data scientists are really getting stuck into ethics. There's a lack of accountability, and some well-meaning apps scare the pants off me, quite frankly, Dave. Yeah. We look down, don't build a gun and then blame somebody else for firing it. There's a lot of responsibility in that. And when we announce technical workshops, definitely the number of attendees shoots up. So we love that crowd. Milton Keynes, we're in an interesting place. We're not far from London and we're not far from Cambridge and Oxford. And I keep saying to people that let's not be well known for being near places, right? I'm sure we can do better than that. I think we should raise our ambitions than, we're slightly cheaper than Cambridge to live in. We've got a big university coming, 2023, MKU, supported by Cranfield University, obviously a really prestigious place, and lots of others. And that's going to be a real STEM university. So what do we want to see? We want to see the startups coming out of that. We want to see the ecosystems of technology companies growing in Milton Keynes. We are getting some scale-ups. That's exciting. We don't have a lot of enterprise. But funny enough, I think our challenge in Milton Keynes, we're 250,000 people. We were scheduled to hit about 500,000 people by 2050. We'll see. We'll see what happens now. Times have changed. Big growth, big economy, fastest growing economy, fastest growing for immigration in the UK, fastest growing for a number of startups outside of London. So great place to be. But moving forward, we could mirror Europe, right? So Europe doesn't have a tech giant. Europe doesn't have an Alibaba, a Tencent, a Google, a Microsoft, and Apple. It doesn't. It's got some big hardware players. We do a lot with robotics and sensors and IoT, and we should be very proud of that. Your Siemens, your Bosch, your people like that. But we have a massive opportunity in Europe to define new ways of working with data and privacy, ownership, and decentralized systems and distributed systems. We can be a world leader in that. And that's what Milton Keynes can do as well. It can find its own space in this technology and not just mirror or try and be a mini London or something. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense to me. And a couple of weeks ago, we were chatting with Herb about this in the context of actually the Northeast and how do we build this connection between academia and industry and in a way that is I guess, facilitating the connection of the right kind of skills and talent to the opportunities that are in the marketplace. And this kind of brings me back to the longer term of 2030 and the kind of businesses that are going to be there and the kind of discussions that are going to be happening in households around the country tomorrow when the whole A-level results thing comes out and we start doing this merry dance about, well, what course can I do now and where can I go and what am I going to do? And one of the things that I think is absolutely crucial, and I think this is where MKU comes in, and I think it's amazing to see that kind of activity there. And also, look, the geography of where you are is brilliant, being sort of almost equidistant to Cambridge and Oxford and London, is that you can start to build a much more pragmatic approach to this. And it's a bit like what I was talking about when it comes to computer science. Computer science is great, don't get me wrong, but it's understanding sort of the application of it. I think there's a huge opportunity for the sort of combination of computer science and philosophy, for example, so that we can have people who can critically think about the application of technology, so that if they start down the path, they realize that actually this could be, what I'm building here could be construed as a gun. So maybe I'm not going to do that. or maybe I'm going to change it slightly, or maybe I'm going to think differently about it. So I think that's what the opportunity that we have. And I think those sorts of skills and having a really diverse approach will come from places like MKU and others. I mean, again, I talked about the stuff that Coventry are doing. Coventry University are taking a very pragmatic stuff. My alma mater up in Manchester, very similar things that they're doing around the whole breadth of digital creativity. So this is the opportunity. And I think, so look, there's a number of things, and we're sort of running into time. My empathy goes to all of the students who are waiting for their A-level results, and to the parents that are on that journey with them, and to the universities who've got to figure out this morass. My only encouragement I can offer you is, as much as you feel that this is like a massive step for you, as the most important day of your life so far, it's really not. It's a gateway to things that you can do, and those other doors will open. And I think it's going to be down to people like Richard and I and our peers to build a world for you that by the time you graduate is ready for you. Your sort of quid pro quo of that is to, what are the skills that you're going to bring? I'll just remind you, 82% of the vacancies in the UK require digital skills. You're going to get interviewed online. You're going to be assessed by your manager online. You're going to be meeting with clients online. All of these things become super important. And I think we've got to bring them all together in a way that becomes fit for purpose. So, I think, Richard, if I just come to you for a summary, if we think about 2030, and I have quite an optimistic view of the future and what technology will enable us to do, and let's bring it back today. Let's think about the students that are about to embark on it might be their university journey, it might be an apprenticeship, it might be the beginning of their career. What would be the one thing that you would say to somebody who's at that point, who's really thinking, well, what's the skill, the one skill that I really need to be great at that's going to help me in terms of my future prospects? What would that be, Richard?
Dave, I do have an answer to that. I mean, first of all, I would just remind everybody that the point of education is to improve the ability for your brain to solve problems and be creative. Like, we don't go to the gym on the treadmill because we need to get somewhere faster. We're going to train to get better and stronger. And that ultimately is where, university, almost, you draw the lines, and education, sorry. But beyond that, I guess I'll just provide you an example. I'm 136 episodes into the actual podcast, including the spin-off. And there's a lot of people who underestimate how much you need to study and understand communication. Some people make it look easy. It is not. Listening, reflecting, being concise, and being to articulate your point and stay on one point from the beginning of a sentence to the end. And remembering that written and verbal communication are very different. And when you're speaking, you need to allow pauses in. The magic happens between the words, and you need to use repetition, and to summarize, and you need to get to the point. I would give that gift to everybody at meet. Take the time. Make that a lifetime's journey of discovery for you to be the best communicator you can be.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think that really is the opportunity, is to be able to connect with people in a really, really rich way. So on that note, Richard, I just want to say thank you for spending some time with us. It's been absolutely wonderful. If the audience wants to go and check out the Boundless Podcast, where's the best place for them to go and find that?
Well, we're doing okay. So if you search Boundless now on any of the Apple or Spotify stores, we seem to be at the top of all the other Boundless named podcasts. So that's a win. Boundlesspodcast.co.uk. I publish it all on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just my name, Richard Foster-Fletcher. Dave, don't let me miss the opportunity to thank you for this and for what you do and all the hard work that you put into this really important role as the connector, the bridge, the storyteller, the community builder. It's incredible what you do. I'm a fan. Let me just say it. I love what you do.
Bless you. Your check's in the post, Richard. So thank you so much for that. Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks, Richard, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So that's it for this week. What a great conversation. It's been brilliant that you were able to join us. We didn't get any lightning, thank God for that, so that's great. You know the drill. If you've enjoyed the show, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You'll get notified when we come back on air. And if you've got feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. So it'd be great to have that conversation with you. Good luck with everything you do. And again, if you've got exam results coming out in the next couple of weeks, best of luck to you. And don't worry about it. It'll all be fine. You'll find a way through. We all found a way through, and you will too. I bet it. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Cheers now.
There are 1,000 stories in the Envisioners' future. This is just one of them.